What's up guys, Joel Adams with Iridesium, and I'm back with another Pyro VFX tutorial. Today we're going to be taking a look at creating some realistic fire. Realistic fire was almost impossible with the old Blender smoke simulator. However, in MantaFlow it is possible and it's actually fairly easy. So what we're going to be creating in this tutorial is a flamethrower. However, this fire can be used for anything. You can create a campfire, you could do really anything with this technique that I'm going to show you. So especially if you've never created anything with fire before, I really recommend that you pull up some reference because it's going to help you out a lot if you don't have any experience. Anyways, with all of that out of the way, let's get started. I'm going to start out by deleting everything as usual, including the default cube. Now I'm going to go ahead and add in a plane. This is going to be the floor. Hit S, 8, scale it up to 8. And again, I mentioned this in the last MantaFlow tutorial, but you want to keep your simulation roughly real-world scale. This right here is going to be the plane, and if we look at this plane is 16 meters by 16 meters. I think that's fine. So now let's add in another plane, and we're going to move this up, rotate it 90 degrees. You know what? Actually, I'm going to add in a cube. It just really doesn't matter what shape you add in. I'll scale this down. And then I to inset this and E to extrude, just so that it looks kind of like an arrow. Something like that, so you can tell what direction our flamethrower is going in. Now I'm going to add in a particle system. This is going to be what's driving the flame. So you want this to last quite a while. I'm going to go under velocity, and the first thing I'm going to change this object aligned X up. I'm just going to crank it up until it looks, I don't know, roughly right to me. I'm going to turn this up to maybe 5,000. Then what you can do is you can go under the viewport display, choose velocity here, turn the size down, and that should give you a slightly easier to look at display of the particles. I'm going to now select the plane, give it a collision, and then I'm going to turn the damping and the friction up. Something like that. Maybe turn the damping down. You do want it to bounce a little bit. Then you can give it some random. Yep, tweak it till it looks good to you. Then I'm going to go to the particle system again, and I'm going to change the randomize up just a tiny bit. Maybe 1. Okay, that's too much. Let's try 0.3. Alright, now that seems to be better. And I'm going to switch to the top view. Move it over on the X just so it's right at the very end of this plane. I'm going to kind of rotate it on the Y-axis until it kind of is hitting the edge of the plane here with its little bounce. Do whatever you want. You could animate this too. That could look cool. Then I'm going to go Object, Quick Effects, and Quick Smoke. That's going to add this pathetic little domain in right here to try to contain the flamethrower. And I'm going to hit S and X to scale it out on the X axis, just so it's kind of containing everything. You can go period, 3D cursor to scale it around the 3D cursor here, and then you can do S, Z, S, Y to scale it out on the Y axis. And that should be enough to contain our simulation. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the domain settings, and we're going to set a cache folder right here. Set this to maybe 200. The next thing I'm going to do is change the vorticity up to 0.1, 128 resolution divisions to start out with. I'm going to choose the bottom right here, and then I'm going to hit 1 to go to the front view, and if the rotation of this cube is applied, then you also want to choose the right, which would be this side right here. So now that we've got that, I am going to go ahead and turn on adaptive domain, set this down to maybe 0.05, and then we're going to go ahead and bake this. So I am going to save the file first. Just save that somewhere on your hard drive. If you're not seeing any bake buttons here, that's because down here it's set to replay. So I'm going to go ahead and set it to modular, and we're going to bake modular. Alright, so I went ahead and baked that, but hopefully you didn't, because this simulation finished in about 30 seconds, And you can see it's definitely not attached to the particles. So go ahead to your emitter, which has the particles coming off of it. Choose initial velocity, mesh, particle system, and check your particle system. I'm also going to choose fire and smoke here. I hardly ever end up using the fire just because it's not cool enough. I end up using the heat attribute, but I'm going to keep fire in the simulation just in case I need it. So go ahead and turn the fuel up to maybe 3. And I'm going to try baking this again, and hopefully it actually works this time. Alright, so here is the bake, and it's looking pretty hot. I went ahead and stopped it at 50 frames just to see what's going on. The nice thing about the new smoke simulator in MantaFlow is you can stop it whenever you want and then resume the simulation if you think it looks good. So it does look good. It's moving very, very fast though, very violently, very fast. So I'm going to hit free, go to the particle system, turn the sampling substeps up to 4, make sure that use adaptive time steps is checked. I'll set this to 8. And that should hopefully fix it. Now we're going to deal with the viewport display. It's not that important, but I like to have a good viewport display anyways. I'm going to add in a sun lamp. That's going to give us some lighting on the smoke. Then we can go down here under viewport display, and you can either check color mapping, which I do all the time, but I kind of want to see the flame right now. So instead what I'm going to do is just turn this thickness up to maybe 10. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and turn on dissolve. And I'm going to set this to about 50. I think that's enough. Maybe even less. I'm going to try 40 and see what that does. Change this to 1. And I'm going to change this down to maybe 0.5, something like that. Hopefully this works. So I'm going to go ahead and bake that. So I'm going to pause this again at 30 frames and just see what's going on. And that looks a lot better. And I think at this point we can do a slightly higher resolution bake. So I'm going to set this to 256 and bake that maybe to 50 frames or something. Check it again. If it looks good, I'll go ahead and bake it all the way through, and then we can work on the shading. Alright, so the simulation is now complete, and if I just skip through this, you can kind of see what it looks like. It looks pretty nice. I like it. I have not baked any noise. We can do that later. I'm going to go ahead and work on the shader now. So go ahead and open up a new window right here, and I'm going to switch this to the shader editor, switch to the rendered view. I'm also going to go to cycles. I'm going to hit Control B to box select just this area. And then I'm going to grab the sun lamp, turn that up to maybe 12. And I'm going to turn on film, transparency. And that should be good. Looks like a decent setup. So now I'm going to delete this, hit Shift A, add in a converter color ramp, plug this into the density value right here. Then add in an input and volume info. I'm going to plug the density right here into this color ramp. And that should give us this. Then you can add in a converter math node. Set this to multiply and crank up its strength. If you tweak this value here, it's going to allow you to kind of clip the smoke, which is what we want. I'm going to go ahead and turn this density off for now. Just set it to 0 while we work on some fire. I'm going to add in an attribute and type in heat. Then we're going to go and plug this into the emission color, turn the emission strength up, and go converter, color ramp, and add that in. So now what you can do is you can drag this way forward and set this to black. And that is going to give you the fire look. I mean, that's basically it. Now that you've got this, you can go ahead and, change it, do whatever you want with it. I'm going to grab this value, drag it forward just a tad, something like that. And you can see, even though it's just black and white, it looks great. It looks pretty nice. So now we can add in a color, mix RGB, set it to color, turn this up, and then add in a converter black body and plug this in right here. And the default value is pretty decent. I mean, that already looks great. You can then turn up the emission strength, something like that, and then you can add your smoke back in. And I'm going to set this smoke's color value down to be black. We're burning probably gasoline here. And that's basically it. I mean, it's kind of incredibly simple. MantaFlow is, it's nice. I like it. It's slow. It'll get faster, but it's a good start. So I'm going to add in a camera, Control Alt Numpad 0, and rotate around the median point. I can now switch this to the 3D view, hit Alt H to add our plane back in. I'll just scale this up maybe. Add a new material, turn it down. Maybe I'll grab this sun lamp and maybe I'll just delete it actually. Yeah, that's better. Now we've got some nice reflection in the floor here. You could maybe set it to metallic and turn the roughness down. Duplicate this plane. I'm going to make sure to go and turn its physics off here so that we're not getting extra physics. So now I can go and turn film transparency back off, set the background to be completely black, and you've got this. It looks pretty neat. That was basically it. Creating fire in MantaFlow is actually really simple. A lot of times you have to crank up the resolution super high for fire, which is kind of unfortunate. Anyways, hopefully you got a cool flamethrower or a campfire or whatever. I would love to see whatever you created. So join the Iridesium community with the link in the description and post your work there. A whole bunch of people posted their work in the Iridesium community last time, and I just really enjoyed it. So yeah, that's it. Anyways, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time. This is Iridesium.